Alright boys, we're back again for another quick video. In this video, my last video I basically ranked all the Transformers TV shows that I've seen on a tier list. And in this video, we're going to rank all of the movies. Because I figured, well, you already did the TV shows, you might as well do the movies, right? And the movies kind of have somewhat of more of an impact. For better or for worse, if it wasn't for the Michael Bay Transformers movies, I probably wouldn't have nearly been as big of a Transformers fan as I am. So I have to really give a lot for these movies. So yeah, in this video we're going to rank all of the movies that they currently have considered as Transformers movies. So here we go. So we have Transformers, the movie. Transformers, the movie. This is the old 80s one. This was kind of like the bridge between season 2 and 3 of the old TV show. And actually, I'm going to put it on S. It's an S tier movie. It's iconic. To be fair, I didn't grow up with this movie as much as everybody else did. As I said before, kind of caught on to the whole G1 Transformers wave a little bit later than everybody else. So I didn't grow up with this movie as much as others. But that doesn't necessarily mean I don't love it. It's a great movie. It took a lot of risk, and you know, it's not a bad movie. I mean, it does rip off a lot of other genres, but you can consider that as inspiration. It's a great Transformers movie. It's iconic. As a Transformers fan, you know, you're probably going to like this movie. It's great. You know, you can't really, you know, you got to love the animation. You got to love the sheer violence that this movie has, too. I mean, it was shocking at the time how much violence this movie has, because a lot of Transformers die. Yeah, it's great. Alright, the first Michael Bay Transformers film. Alright. So, the thing is, the Michael Bay Transformers movies are kind of just... they are very important, and, you know, I grew up with these movies. Like I mentioned earlier, if it wasn't for these movies, I probably wouldn't be as big of a Transformers fan. And part of me really likes the first Transformers film. It's not a bad Transformers film. There's a lot of issues with it. Like, for example, too much focus on the humans, and the Transformers don't nearly get as much screen time. But this movie is where Michael Bay's style of directing really was kind of like there, but it wasn't really as defined as you would see in the later movies. He wasn't kind of given all this creative freedom that he is in the later movies. So this movie is kind of, it's bad. It's a B. It's not a bad movie. Looking back on it, I don't think it's great. I do have a fun time still watching it, but it's fine. Yeah. So like I said before, it's fine. I like a lot of the Transformer designs, and they didn't really go too crazy. Transformers. I'm gonna do all these. All right. I guess let's do. I'm gonna do all these in order because it's just kind of it's better. So then they made the sequel, Transformers Revenge of the Fallen, which they rushed out 2 years later. And yeah, Michael Bay was given too much control in this movie. This movie is not really good. I am glad that they brought in the Fallen, and there's a lot of things that Revenge of the Fallen does that is like great for Transformers lore in general. You know, the Fallen was given much more creative status. I mean, Dreamwave created the Fallen as an original character, like one of the Primes, and it's like so weird that the movie decided to use the Fallen out of all the Transformers things they could have used. But there's a lot of things holding this movie back. The humor is too much in this movie. There's too much focus on the humans. The sidekicks, Mudflip and Skids, what the hell are those? And just a lot of things about this film. It's too much. It's too much. Um, yeah, not a great Transformers film. And then also, you cannot forget about that ugly ass Terminator Transformer they had in this movie. And honestly, that thing was a freaking sin to mankind. So then they made this film. That film made $1 billion, or I think it almost made $1 billion. I'm not quite sure. So they made Transformers: Dark of the Moon. And Transformers: Dark of the Moon is a little bit better. You know, it is kind of. I don't want to put it on A because it isn't as good as an A movie, but it is probably the best Michael Bay Transformers film. It's the most Michael Bay out of all of his Transformers movies. Still, way too much focus on human characters. But at least this time around, I don't know. Like, at least this time around, there's more action in this film. There's more core Transformers. There's more things that actually a Transformers fan would like to see. It's probably the most batshit crazy Michael Bay Transformers film there is, but in a way it's great, you know. But there's a lot of bad things about that film. And Prime is literally a murderer in this movie. So, Transformers Age of Extinction. Well, I better get this film out of the way. Transformers Prime Beast Hunters. This was like a random movie they decided to make in the Prime TV show, and they just made it as a movie. Which introduced I think it introduced the Predacon. No, it introduced a Predacon. I think the Predacon King or whatever. It's a decent little movie. You know, it doesn't make any sense if you haven't seen the TV show, but it's decent. It's fine. It's a C. I know it's crazy. I'm putting this. Yeah, fine. I'll put it on C. Transformers: Age of Extinction is a C. It's not as bad as Revenge of the Fallen. Excuse me. It's not as bad as Revenge of the Fallen, but it is not necessarily better than the first Transformers movie. Michael Bay did take it back to basics in this one. There's less forgettable Transformers. There's, you know, more Transformers we can recognize. And I don't know. There's aspects of this movie that are good that Michael Bay tries to do, but there's just still the same shit. Way too much focus on human characters, and it's also just way too long. I mean, this movie is nearly 3 hours long, dude. Who needs to see this movie that long? Because there really isn't that much happening here. This movie could have probably been 2 hours long. So yeah, kind of it's a C movie. Bumblebee, an A film. This film really returned. Well, hold up. Before I say that, Transformers: The Last Night. C. Actually, you know, I'm even tempted to put it in D. It's that bad, bruh. Uh, Sorry, give me one second, guys. Sorry about that, guys. Alright, Transformers: The Last Night. Alright, it's a C film. This was the final Michael Bay Transformers film, and it honestly, to be honest with you, should have been the one that just ended everything. This film is so bizarre because it's not only Michael Bay's fault this time around. You can't just blame it all on him. The studio's behind it this time around also, because they wanted to make a Transformers cinematic universe. I made a video about this a while back. But this film should not have been a launch pad. The Michael Bay universe should not have been a launch pad for other Transformers films. In my opinion, The Last Night should have just been a finale. They crafted a story that was just a conclusion. But instead, The Last Night is this awkward film that tries to launch other movies, and it fails. The human characters aren't great, and the story even makes less sense than it does in Age of Extinction. There's so many stupid parts of this movie, and it also is just directed horribly. Like, Michael Bay films sometimes have their really bad shots, but this film in particular has some really stunning, horrible things about it. And I'm honestly tempted to put it as bad as Revenge of the Fallen. Like my man, like it's bad. And then we have Bumblebee, which came out a year later. And I don't know. This film is absolutely amazing. You know, The Last Night was such a stinker the year prior, and then when this film came out, even though it wasn't really confirmed like what it would be, honestly though, like Bumblebee is a great film. You know, you can arguably say that there's a lot more human stuff that I complained about, but the human stuff actually has emotional weight in this film. And you care about the characters. You don't just care about, like, oh, Sam needs to go get a job, which is like the whole thing with the third movie. This one, you actually care about, uh, the human characters quite a bit. The Transformers have weight; they feel like characters, and like I said before, it's a great film. And obviously, you have that amazing opening sequence. It was like the first time a Transformers film actually felt good. And then we have the new film, Transformers: Rise of the Beast. Um, Transformers: Rise of the Beast. I know it's pretty surprising I'm putting it so high, and it's such a recent film. But I've been saying before, I think it's honestly a great Transformers movie. I know it's not like an amazing movie, but honestly, like it's a pretty solid movie. The Transformers actually feel like characters. The plot is actually pretty interesting. The human characters feel a little bit relatable. I don't know. It's kind of like what the first movie really should have been. But it came out like over 10 years later. Uh, in my opinion, a very solid film, and hopefully it starts the future for future Transformers films, so to speak. So that's all the Transformers films ranked in this video. Um, like I said before I actually end this video, before I say anything else, I'm gonna actually put Last Night on D. That film was actually awful. Like, holy shit, dude. And I was tempted to put Transformers in A, just because there is a bit of nostalgia, but it honestly isn't that great of a film, so I'll still keep it at B. Regardless, though, that is my tier list for the Transformer films. Appreciate y'all watching this, and see y'all later.